All right, I'm sure this will be reasonable. Maybe it will be. Let's check in. Mike Martz, who coordinated some really good offenses, including Kurt Warner's, found and developed for a time. I mean, Mark Bulger, people may not remember if you're a little young, but Mark Bulger was a guy out of nowhere who put up numbers. Kurt Warner was really a guy out of nowhere, put up massive numbers and become a Hall of Famer, and played beyond Mike Martz. But Mike Martz, one-time 49ers offensive coordinator, coached J.T. O'Sullivan two different places. Somehow the Niners went 7-9 one year with Sean Hill and J.T. O'Sullivan, with Mike Martz coordinating the offense. But anyway, here's Mike Martz, 33rd team. This is where his content is, talking about Brock Purdy.
People, when he started having those turnovers, they expect him to be perfect. And he's still got a little bit of a learning curve too. You know, and they're putting him, the more he does, the more they ask him to do. I was guilty of that. So you gotta be careful too. You forget he's just a young guy, you know, if you're not careful. So they went back and they kept things pretty static for him. But where he's really exceptional, guys, is he just, under pressure, he stands in there and makes throws that most guys, he's courageous players. We talk about CJ, same thing. Courageous player, standing in there making throws and under duress that most guys just can't or won't make, you know? And accurate, tough, calm, just, you know, ice in his veins, so to speak, you know? The Joe Montana thing is really accurate. I think it's a good analogy, I really do. Those people that, I mean, they just jump off the bandwagon at the first opportunity. I think that's just the nature of some people. I mean, they can't wait for you to have a bad moment, you know, so they take a shot at you. But he's the real deal.
So, I mean, the quote at the end, he's the real deal, is just as good a quote as comparing him to Joe, because what he's saying with Joe, he's talking about the mental, you know, the toughness, the ability to stand in and deliver the ball. We're talking about Joe Cool here. So, you know, he knows when he says it, and coaches and players love to say, like, you know, the media, you guys. Well, I mean, here's a coach who I guess now is in the media making a comparison that he knows is going to get attention. But maybe, you know, he's saying if that's what he believes, that's what he believes. I don't care. I don't think he's saying it for the attention. And he's not saying he's a 4-time Super Bowl champ. He's not saying he's the greatest or second greatest quarterback of all time. Brock also plays in a very different world than Joe played in. For people who lived Joe Montana, I did not really. If you watch the Montana documentary, you see the level of hits that he took, the physical beating that he took later in his career. And that was a significant part of, you know, where he earned the mental toughness, kind of respect that he got from everybody. Brock turns 24 years old on December 29th. He has started 17 games, including the postseason, including the Eagles game. If he stays healthy, he will start 5 more games. He will have 23 starts before the age of 24. Joe was a year older. Montana was 24 years old to start his second season. In that second year, he only started 7 games, but he played a ton, played behind Steve DeBerg. He actually led the league. Joe did, qualified and led the league in completion percentage that year. People probably were calling him a system QB. By year 3, he was 25 years old. Year 3, he finished second in the MVP voting. The guy that finished first in the MVP voting that year was a quarterback named Ken Anderson. Ken Anderson was the Bengals quarterback. The Bengals were, Bill Walsh was the Bengals offensive coordinator previously, and Ken Anderson came in and was benefiting by, you know, some of the stuff that Bill left behind. So there was a little bit, not quite the same, but kind of like with Kyle, where guys have gone off and other quarterbacks have benefited from what his offense is. There was some of that going on that year. You know, Joe Montana is Joe Montana because of what he did over the course of his career, not because of what he did in the first 2 or 3 years of his career. And I think, like, the first time I heard this March quote, I thought, well, that's a little extreme. Then I listened back to it a couple times, and he is only, I think, talking about the ability to stand and deliver. Because the other thing he says in there was about simplicity. I thought this was interesting insight from March too. That had nothing to do with Montana.
Got a little bit of a learning curve too. You know, and they're putting him, the more he does, the more they ask him to do. I was guilty of that. So you gotta be careful too. You forget he's just a young guy, you know, if you're not careful. So they went back and they kept things pretty static for him. But where he's really exceptional.
So I'd be interested, like from Shanahan's perspective, how much they actually dialed things back. Martz is the Fresno State grad, uh, started as a high school coach. Martz is the football guy. My guess is some of what felt like they dialed things back was actually just them playing from ahead this week instead of playing from behind like they had, especially that's where the turnovers came. And that's also a big part of where Joe Montana earned his rep. So, you cannot step into the elite class of current quarterbacks, let alone the historic elite class of quarterbacks, without championships and without comeback wins. You just can't. And, until those things happen, and those things have to happen over time, then any comparison of Brock and Joe is going to feel premature. But the one thing, and I said this on Sunday, you see Trevor Lawrence's physicality. I think Trevor Lawrence's talent is, and everyone said it coming out, like this is generational talent. Extreme physical talent is commonplace in the NFL. The mental fortitude to stand in and take hits and deliver the ball accurately is not, and read the defense while doing it is not commonplace in the NFL. So when a guy is in his second year, as Brock is, he always has one of those two things. Like there's always a big question. Will he evolve mentally with the league? Will he be able to stay accurate as he's in the league for 3, 4, 5 years, as his teammates get less talented around him because he gets less expensive or gets more expensive, right? That's a question that every young quarterback has to deal with. And then there's the physicality part of it. Like, will his skills hold up? Will he hold up with Brock, especially, right? Because he's not as big of a guy. And so you wonder, will he take a beating? He has taken some big hits and pop back up. This last week, he took a couple of big hits. So any guy in year 2 is going to just have all that stuff to prove. And he still has a lot to prove. But the skill, the thing that Mike Martz is talking about here, the reason that he compared him, the thing about Joe that he compared him to, right? You see those like people sometimes will do like build the perfect quarterback, and you take this guy Elway's arm and Peyton Manning's brain and Brady's clutch gene and Lamar's legs, right? You do that whole thing. So when you build that quarterback, he's got a bunch of different parts in him, right? That imaginary quarterback. And so what Mike is saying here, he's not saying he's got Joe's late game heroics or Joe's championship winning mentality. He's just saying he's got the thing. And even that, I think, is a stretch, right? To do it over the course of 1 year is different than doing it over the course of a career. Because part of what happened with Montana was he kept getting crushed and he kept standing back up. And the thing I keep going back to is I think the more you play quarterback, the more guys get filtered out because you get scarred, you get hurt, you just flinch a little bit, you get a little gun shy, you're just willing to check it down instead of really standing in. And it's natural, of course. And you can only prove that you can, quote unquote, stand in and take it over the course of 10 years because it gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And it's definitely easier now than it was then, just based on the rules. But so far, I think what you've seen from Brock is he's got something that most guys at 24 years old, 23 years old do not have. And I think that's what Mike is identifying here. And I'm okay with that. Like, I think the big picture comparing him to Joe is ridiculous. Like comparing him to Joe Montana, an all-time great, the greatest for a 20 plus year stretch without a debate before Brady started winning 5 and 6 is crazy. It's crazy. But I do think there's something to identifying the skill that he has of probably the hardest thing to maintain over the course of a career, which is the ability to read, be patient, and deliver accurately. Now, teams we're seeing with Josh Allen, like things have changed with him around him. He's gonna get a new offensive coordinator. They just fired Ken Dorsey. Joe Brady's gonna take over. Then they'll get another new one. Maybe he'll get a new head coach. Like he's going through a cycle right now, a down cycle, and it takes, it takes time. It takes time, and we'll look back. Maybe have we seen the greatest years of Josh Allen's career? I'm gonna doubt it, but like it's possible. I don't think you can assume who their next coach is going to be. Will it be the guy that can get the most out of them? So that's what we're seeing right now with the 49ers, right? We saw it with Joe Montana. He had the coach that get the most out of him. We're seeing it with Kyle Shanahan. No better place for Brock Purdy to be than here. If Brock Purdy were the Bills quarterback and Josh Allen were the 49ers quarterback, would Josh Allen be better? I actually think he would, even though it feels like Kyle might put the reins on him too much. Quarterbacks just play better when he's their coach. So I would be optimistic about that, but that's a fantasy world. So you look at some of these stats. I'll try to make this a little bigger here. This is from Fantasy Pros. Look at this graphic. This is offensive success rate by down. So for each team, this is a cool little graphic too. For each team, the left column is first down, the middle column is second down, the third column is third down, and if you your eyes just go to, okay, who has the 3 bar graphs that are the highest, and obviously the Bills are very high. The Niners are in the lower right-hand corner. Look at the Niners and then look around and see if you can find one kind of as balanced as them. The Eagles are excellent on third down. If you look, not as great on first down. The Niners are excellent on first down. Actually, on first down, they might, it's close. Them and the Dolphins look like lead the league. Seattle's right there. But like, look at Seattle. Seattle falls off a cliff on third down here. And the Niners just keep it going. Bucks best on third down, bad on first and second down. Like, that's something this week when the Niners play the Bucks. Bucks are bad on first down, better on third down. Good luck then. They are not going to be better on third down this week. They better be better than that on first down, or they're going to get housed on third down. That's not going to maintain. Dallas bad on first down, relatively. So, I mean, Chiefs excellent on second down. Bengals excellent on second down. But you just look at the consistency that this offense has run with Brock in the lower right-hand corner. Look at this one from Ben Baldwin. This is quarterback efficiency, early and late downs, okay? So on the left-hand side, you probably can't read it. Third and fourth down, EPA per play. On the bottom, early down, EPA per play. So like Tommy DeVito, he's here. He's bad at both. Here's Gino, right? Look at the graph we just looked at, which was a separate data set. I just used the word data set. I'm bad at, that's not me. But look at Gino here, right? This matches up with this. Here's Seattle, good on first down, bad on third down. So here's this other graphic, quarterback efficiency. Here's Gino at the bottom, early downs. On the left, third and fourth. So Gino, good on early downs, bad on third and fourth down. Good, right? What's the Niners' issue been defensively? The previous weeks during that losing streak, bad on third down. Well, this is why Seattle doesn't feel like a threat to them when they play head-to-head. Where's Brock? Way the F up here. Way over here, all alone. Now here's Dak and Hurts, excellent on third down. But here's Brock over here, all by himself. Now, this is a Brock stat, right? That's what the stat tells you. But the real graphic, I think, is this one. It's a team stat. So when somebody just put a comment in here that I thought was good. Here we go. CJ, they ask Allen to do everything, run, make great throws all the time. You need to run it enough. And they just tell Josh to win every play. And it's hard to do that. I think that's a great point. Like, that's why I've seen a few of these the last few days, like especially last night, this morning. We got to have a conversation about Josh Allen. You know, I watched it last night. The interceptions he threw were brutal. I mean, absolutely brutal. And it felt like even had they won the game, it was a performance that leaves you just scratching your head. But I also watch him and know that what he's being asked to do, the level to which he's being asked to carry that team, is just different than most guys, because he has shown, like, he's got broad shoulders. So then when you establish you got broad shoulders, they're going to put everything on your shoulders. It's just the way it works. Like, the person who works the hardest at the office is going to be given a lot of work. The horse that can drag the most equipment is going to have the most equipment put on their buggy. So that's the situation with Josh Allen. That's not the situation at the moment with Brock Purdy. Whatever. Like, you can't do it any better. Like, when people say, well, you know, if Brock played for somebody else, okay, that'll be a problem if Kyle Shanahan decides to go work for Amazon. But until then, he plays for Kyle Shanahan, and that's pretty damn good. So, these are all things that I don't know. We'd have to ask. We'd have to bring in Lowell. If you're bringing Lowell Cohen, who I love, maybe he could give me some perspective on the Montana coverage. Was there a lot of system quarterback hand wringing over Montana? It turns out, like anything else, if you win enough, and the Niners have not yet won enough, they have not won a championship with Kyle. If you win enough, eventually people got to shut up. But that doesn't happen until you do it. And until then, we just debate and debate. And even then, when Brady started winning championships at a very high rate, there was this whole Montana debate again. Like, well, was he that great? And, in the end, the answer was yes. Yes, he was that great. So with Brock, any Montana talk is premature. But Mike Marsh doesn't have to. Mike Marsh is just a football guy telling you what he sees, making a prediction. So the idea of premature is just there's no such thing. He's saying I'm telling you what I see. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I'm telling you what he didn't say. Maybe I'll be wrong, but he's telling you what he sees. So we could debate if it's appropriate or not. But there's no such thing. Like he's telling you this is what I see. Okay, maybe he'll be right. I think there's something to it. If he didn't identify it as Joe Montana, if he just said, I've seen great quarterbacks and they have this trait where they're just calm in the pocket. They don't get flustered. They still are able to read the defense and deliver throws. And he's got that. It wouldn't feel dramatic at all. But he said Joe Montana. So it makes it feel really dramatic. The one thing you see with Brock does a lot of the turn and duck. He does it a lot. And he does it efficiently. And he's protecting himself. He threw a ball early in the year that was not a good throw, I thought, because he was falling away. But something to watch. Now, Mark is also a Warner guy, or at least he was. I don't know what their relationship is now. Warner is a Brock guy. Kurt Warner sees similarities between Brock and himself, too. Strange how all the renowned current and ex-players and coaches all praise Brock, but random internet commenters think they know better. Yeah, I mean, I think what they identify, not every analyst, by the way, loves Brock. Some people think the love is over the top. And some of the love is over the top. Like, be real about it. Some of it is, right? I've said with him for the last few months, like, let's stay middle porridge for the old Goldilocks. Like, not too hot, not too cold. Still got to prove it. Small sample size. The more samples you get, the bigger it goes. A lot to prove. But I think what a lot of the guys, not all, what a lot of people who played football see, and I've talked to people who played football about Brock, because I'm fat. Like, is this crazy? A lot of what they see, the thing you hear the most, from my personal experience, when you text people or talk to people who played football at the highest level, the thing they identify the most with Brock is the thing that Mike Martz just said. That's the number one thing that I've heard from people, is just that, like the mental capacity to step right in and be unafraid. Can you win a Super Bowl with Josh Allen? Just don't seem so. I don't know if he will win a championship. I mean, you think about the quarterbacks that exist in his existence. Will he be the Marino of the group, who never gets it done? Maybe early had a shot, didn't break through, and it never happens for him. Maybe. I don't think it's because he's incapable of it. I think he's capable of it. He is. If you have Josh Allen, I mean, think about it like this. You put Josh Allen on the Niners right now. Now, he's getting paid like the guy that's got to carry you. So he's got to carry you. But I do think he's capable of it. Doesn't mean he will. Mahomes, Burrow. I mean, Burrow has surpassed him for sure in terms of the hierarchy. Burrow's 2 right now. I think if you gave everybody a pick, Joe would go second behind Mahomes. And it wasn't that long ago that was like obviously a Josh Allen pick. But remember last year, Pete Carroll said Brock plays like Fran Tarkington. That take did not set off all the debate shows. I don't remember that. Maybe vaguely. I don't remember it. But maybe JT O'Sullivan can do a QB school Fran Tarkenton and break that down. Kurt Warner, the undrafted. Yeah, I mean, undrafted and like undrafted did not get to just come to the NFL. Had to go play for a team that had goggles. Iowa Barnstormers or something like that. Wasn't that what was the team? Paul, I don't think Josh can make fast enough decisions to run Kyle's offense. Paul, there is a segment of people that do believe that, and there's probably something to be said for it. The question would be, if you get handed Josh Allen, do you adjust things a little bit for Josh Allen? And I think the answer to that is yes, right? We saw Kyle adjust things for Trey Lance. He could certainly adjust to some degree for Josh Allen. No. Tito's on the other hand. Happy to show you. So I know Kyle gets a lot of flack for being, and we've given it to him. I've given it to him for, like, is he too stubborn with some stuff? His dad had John Elway. If you had given him Josh Allen, I think he would make some adjustments. Didn't Steve Young say that Niners must keep Jimmy at all costs? Players and ex-players can be wrong. I don't remember him saying that, but players and ex-players can definitely be wrong. I don't, and they disagree. I'm not saying they're not all unanimous on Brock, so it's fine. It's not the whole world. It's not like when you look up at, one of those pregame shows and there's like 8 people all picking the same team. And anytime you see that, you immediately go, uh-oh. That's not what's happening right now with Brock. It's not the whole world all in on Brock. And I got no problem with it. I don't, what he's done is special. He has very special qualities. He might be a franchise. Every week that passes, he trends more towards being their franchise quarterback. But Kyle Shanahan said something yesterday. Let me see if I can pull up this quote real quick. It was not about Brock. Kyle was asked about the nickelback position and whether or not they would stick with Diamador Lenore at nickel and Ambry Thomas outside, or would they go back to Oliver at nickel. And Kyle said, let me read you this quote here. The question that Shanahan was asked is that going to be, so we got asked about it. How did you think they played? Then somebody said, is that going to be the long-term plan of the position? Kyle said, I mean, we don't think about anything long-term. It's always week to week. So I liked how it went last week. We'll see when we watch film here the next 48 hours what we think the best is on Wednesday. Okay, I'm going to say the first quote again. We don't think about anything long-term. That would be his answer right now. I don't have to declare him Joe Montana or Josh Allen or anybody right now because I don't have to. And I think he's proven it over and over and over again. Now, you could definitely take that quote and twist it in a conversation about, I don't know, Trey Lance. But I do think that is, he tells us a lot that's kind of his mindset in different ways. And the fun of what we do is try to figure out, has he found the guy? And his answer would be, maybe, but I don't have to know right now. And we've seen that repeatedly with the way he's run the team. Comment from Sean. Offenses look uneven across the league, and the elite QBs in particular aren't rolling over teams like usual. I'd love someone to ask Kyle what he thinks is happening league-wide. I feel like he got asked it a couple of weeks ago and didn't really have a specific answer. I could be wrong about that. If somebody saw the quote and I'm misremembering, let me know. But I think he got kind of asked about offense being down maybe 2 weeks ago and didn't really answer the question, or basically said like there wasn't a pattern. But I might be wrong about that. Rafa, Brock deserves that praise, but we still need to see him come from behind. These next 4 games are going to show us who he really is. I mean, will they? Are the Bucs going to show us who he really is? At the Seahawks, is that going to show us who he really is? At the Eagles and then the Seahawks again? I don't think those 4 games are going to show us who he really is. Who you really are gets revealed over a longer period of time. But yeah, I mean, maybe these next 4 games affect the way, one of them in particular, the December 3rd game in Philly, affect the way you think about whether or not they can win a championship, for sure. But, Bucks at home, at Seattle, Seattle at home, and then that road game at the Eagles. The Eagles stretch that looked like a murderer's row, Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo. Uh, they play KC this week on the road, then they play Buffalo. It'll be interesting to see. Right now, they're on pace to come out of that pretty clean. So I don't think these next 4 games will answer the question on Brock. But I do agree with the first part of what Rafa said, that you still need to see him come from behind. You need to see him do it more and consistently. And truly, when the franchise quarterbacks in the modern era really become the franchise quarterbacks, is when they get expensive. And then you really find out because it just costs their team good players. Then you really find out. But going back to Mike Martz, you kind of his offense is the greatest show on turf. Rams were kind of stacked in a way that this Niners team is. Multiple legit receivers, one of the most dynamic. I was talking to somebody this weekend who was a teammate of Marshall Faulk's, and he said what's underrated about Marshall Faulk, who was Mike Martz's running back, is how smart he was. Like, he was a football savant, in addition to being a catching and running threat, one of the greatest that the league has ever seen, that he was a football savant. And so you kind of got, there's some similarities, I think, with that Rams team. Now, they were a more explosive passing team, I think, but I don't know, maybe the numbers don't reflect that. That's how it felt. But I think there's some similarities with what Mike Martz is talking about. Plucked a quarterback out of nowhere. The thing with Warner was he went on. It felt like, was he just a product of them? And then his career, it looked like it was over. Some of you were old enough to remember that. You don't have to be old, but it looked like his career was over. There was a stretch where they were going back and forth. It felt like kind of like Montana and Young with Mark Bulger and Kurt Warner. And Bulger was coming on, and Warner was bad and was losing games and was always battling an injury. And it was like, well, Kurt had a good run. And then he resurrected himself. We need to see Brock be able to lead a comeback drive, because they're never going to win 4 straight playoff games by blowout. Sure, but I mean, like, if he does it against the Bucks this week, you still got to do it in the playoffs. Different animal. But yeah, I agree. I think he can. That's the other thing with him, is he didn't do it. He hasn't done it. Well, he did it against the Raiders last year, but he didn't do it this year. And it failed in dramatic fashion. I don't think it's because he can't handle it, like, mentally. I think he's all right in that regard. Warner was so bad with the Giants. Yeah, that was later. But the Arizona, went to the Super Bowl again. Sean, 10 spot. Sup, former Marina home slice. Was not. I haven't been back in the Marina in a month or so. Anyway, it's a San Francisco geography for those of you not from the area. Fun area. Sun's out in the Marina. It is just on. Actually, I was there just after Fleet Week. It was incredible. Anyway, this offense is built around the versatility of Debo. Without him, teams can crowd the box. Take CMC, Purdy out at the same time. How are we going to hide Ambry for 9 games? He did play better. He made some plays the other day, and obviously and the fumble. There's no hiding. You got to get to the quarterback with 4, which they did. They got to the quarterback with 4 last week. So they got to keep that up. And if the Bucks are bad on first or second down, they're gonna do it again this week. Feel it crazy to say this, because McCaffrey's numbers have been ridiculous. But man, it feels like when Debo's gone and then Debo's back, even when Debo doesn't put up the numbers, it just makes me, watching this game this week made me wonder if he's the more irreplaceable guy. Like McCaffrey's just going to have the bigger numbers. McCaffrey is one of one, just a stud, a superstar. But I don't know. I wondered watching them this week. Maybe Debo's the more irreplaceable because of what we've seen Kyle do with the running back. Now, what McCaffrey does as a receiver, he's not Raheem Mostert. He's not your classic plug and play Kyle running back. But I did wonder that. I mean, it's an ongoing debate, but I did wonder that again this week. Thanks for the I could buy a slice with that $10 actually. Kurt was in a similar position as Brock. No QB who came in. A nobody QB who came in because of injury, had a lot of talent around him with Holt and Faulk and Bruce. Yeah. And he did. Trent Williams is actually the soul of the offense. We can't do anything without him. I mean, they beat the Rams at the end of the year without him in a must-win game. But yeah, I mean, you try to make a list of their 5 most important players and tell me that's not one of the most difficult lists that you could ever make. Who are the Niners' 5 most important, right? Like, you are leaving off either Trent, Brock, McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, Warner, Bosa. That's 8. So 3 of those guys are getting left off. Is there an OC or head coach that gets more credit for QB success, more so than Kyle Shanahan in the history of the league? Well, the fact that he kind of rotates the quarterback, not rotates, but he's had so many quarterbacks, works in his favor when it comes to the credit he gets. I mean, Walsh got a ton of credit, rightfully so. Greg Roman? Did he get all the credit for Kaepernick and Lamar Jackson? Mike Leach in the college level, the late great Mike Leach. Rightfully, I mean, created an offense that just produced record-setting numbers with quarterbacks that were not NFL pros. Andy deserves a lot of credit, but obviously he shares it with Mahomes. Shanahan, Mike. Gruden got a lot of credit for less than spectacular quarterback play for the most part. That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, McVay got a lot of credit with Goff's success in the past. I thought rightfully, but obviously Jared's had a resurrection. I mean, it's really happy for him. I don't know him, but root for him. Good dude. And I like to see a guy kind of, after he gets discarded like that, find a way to bounce back. Happy for him. All right, people are arguing. But yeah, Bill got a ton of credit, but deserved. Stars play big in big moments. We have plenty of stars itching for the opportunity. Get to the big game healthy, and I feel good. I would agree with that. Are they going to be healthy when they play Philly December 3rd? They might be the more healthy team. The one guy right now that does not feel healthy, John mentioned this the other day, is Dre Greenlaw. Does not feel healthy. Yeah, Andy had McNabb in Philly, and it was good. He got credit for it. But that's the one guy. I mean, when you think like, are they? Well, I mean, they're not healthy on the McKivitz isn't healthy, so we'll see what they do this week. But in terms of star players, yeah, Greenlaw just looks a little off right now, and given the level of physicality that he plays with, it's you need him healthy, maybe. All right. Oh, we'll go one more here. Dropping big bucks on the stream today. Ayuk, thank you, Sean. Ayuk is the only one that hasn't taken over a game yet. McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle have. Debo is that threat every time a helmet is on him. And even Juwan has multiple clutch catches. Bell looks like a keeper. You know, Ayuk had some big games early in the year. But I think the beauty of Ayuk in part is on this team it works because he doesn't get, if he's got no catches through a half, he's not over there on the sideline yelling at anybody. He doesn't get down. If Brandon's got 2 catches for 12 yards, they're both probably significant. When he catches an 8-yard ball on first down, it really gets, like we saw last week. He had that big catch, got called for the PI, they got set back, and like that possession was totally fucked. But it feels like even though he's not, you don't look up with like every week, it's like 7 for 117. He really is. And this is, I think, one thing that's so unique about this team. Not only do they have great players, the 8 guys I just mentioned, and more than that, but when you think about them, they're all tone setters. And Ayuk, for a guy that's not going to put up based on the offense, just, based on the talent around him, he's not going to put up massive numbers every week. He still finds a way to really be a tone setter. The Niners are one of the reasons they're so good is because they have superstars that on any given week are going to be their role players. So like on a given week, McCaffrey's just numbers will be superstar numbers, or Debo's will be superstar numbers, or Kittle will catch multiple touchdowns, or Ayuk. Ayuk has had those games. But when that guy's doing that, those other 2 guys or 3 guys who are superstar players are going to just be role guys and are good at it, like are okay with it. That's what separates them, is when it's Ayuk's day to be the role guy, he'll still make a superstar play because he's engaged. So, that's, people talk about the talent being so unique without a superstar quarterback to this point. But I don't think it's just the talent. I think it's who those guys are and how they play and how ready they are for their moment, even if it's not their day to carry the load. I mean, Christian McCaffrey stepped in, became the bell cow, and nothing changed for those other guys in terms of how they handle themselves. You saw early in the year that Eagles game in prime time where they were set up to run the ball out, and A.J. Brown was on the sideline pissed because he wasn't getting the rock. So they gave him the rock, and it almost cost him the game. Is Ayuk a strong 2 or a 1? A strong 2. But like almost like, it feels like a little tier kind of by himself. There are guys who are traditional 2s who are 3s in the world where Ayuk is a 2, if that makes sense. Like he's just, if you tiered it up, he's not tier 1, but tier 2 would be like him and a couple. It'd be really small because he's like a 1.5. And I think you put him on a different team, he'd put up numbers that look like 1 numbers. The only thing that matters is is he going to get paid like a 1 if he gets free agency? Someone look at him like Christian Kirk, like, wait till we get him here. Watch this. It's going to blow up. I think that might be in him. So, all right. Hit that like button. Yesterday, somebody asked me a question. I didn't answer because I didn't see it till I was already off. Some of you are interested. So any of you that ask me and are interested, I appreciate it. I'm not here to make this a vehicle for that, but I am calling a football game this week. So if you guys want to watch it, it's UCF at Texas Tech. I'm fired up. 2 teams coming off top 20 wins. Each team needs a win to get bowl eligible. Texas Tech beat Kansas last week. UCF blew the doors off Oklahoma State. So that game's on FS1 or FS2 this week. FS2. So you get it on your guide. It's there. Just find it. 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock Pacific on Saturday, if you're inclined. Some of you ask, no obligation, but there you go. UCF at Texas Tech. I'll be there for that game this week. All right. We will have, if you're watching this live or somewhat live, on Tuesday, 3:30 Pacific, we'll be doing the pod. So jump in for that. And thanks. Yeah, hit that like button. When you hit the like button, it makes you a sponsor. Tito's pays money to be the sponsor, and we appreciate that very much. Sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. But when you hit that like button, kind of makes you a sponsor too, because the algorithm says, oh, somebody liked this video. Let's push the video up a little bit. Then more people see it, and then it gets a little bit of velocity, and that helps. So thank you for doing that. Hit that like button. We're at the door. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.